All right, Emma, I've recorded this video twice now. This is actually my third time recording it. And the first time was much shorter. The second time was a nice 14-minute video that would have been helpful. This one's going to be a little faster and funnier. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more polished for you. All right, so I'm going to run you through some quick steps with Lightburn. Now, Lightburn is the software that you use to turn artwork into laser engravable items. So it hopefully is installed in your computer. I will walk you through those steps later at some point in time. But let's just say that you want to make a cup for Pam Crane, and it's a 40-ounce only. So I would go here and I would click open. I would go into Castle's Creations Laser Engraving. I would then go into RD Works files, and then I would go down to say like a 40-ounce upper, and then like there's different ones. I know for a fact that there's like this SCK one. I actually opened up an Amy New Skin is what this one's called. So I'll hit File. First thing you should do whenever you start a new project is save as, and then save it as like template or whatever it happens to be. So it looks like I've already got an upper template as well. So I'm going to save this one as too. Of note, this has already been scaled. The way that you can check that is like look at the size because it's only 150 in width. I know that that's much smaller than a Stanley cup in a circle. And so actually, if you look, a Stanley 40-ounce, I'm in the Chuck scaling factors, is 315 is the 315 is the circumference. I do 25 millimeter offsets, so you'll see that. Let me show you. There's a 25 millimeter offset, and so that means that what I did was if there was a square that was 315, so we'll come here, right? We'll say a square that is 100, there's 315. So we'll clear, leave that unchecked. Height 315. Okay. Now I want to be able to start from either side 25 millimeters away from the center of the handle. And so what I'm going to do is I can subtract 25 from each side. So that means I'm going to subtract 50 from 315. So I don't know if it'll allow me to do this. Sometimes some programs will actually let you do this and say like minus 50, enter, and it'll actually do it for you. So I didn't have to go out and run another calculator. It's now at 265. Okay, so that means from that point to that point, it is the distance between where we want to be in the area that we can, work on the cup. I also usually take another one and keep it at 315, and then I divide it by 4, so 315, because when you are creating artwork on a cup, a lot of times you want things to be half round from each other. And so the way to do that is you can say a whole cup is overall 315, and then you divide that by 4, and you get 1/4 of the cup, right? And so, or sorry, by 2, and you get half of the cup. And so you can just do that. You can say divide by 2, hit enter, and it's 157.5. So now I've got this. That's a mistake. Press delete. Selecting this. I want these to be the same size. So then I want to go ahead and center them like that. So now they're on top of each other. But I know that based on the scaling factors, I came back to here, Stanley 40-ounce is, I use 315. That means it's 57%. In this one, when you're creating the template, you actually do want to use this full amount. So right now it's 57.143 or 57.14. And so I'd go here, make sure that aspect ratio is unclicked, and I would say 57.14%. That's why I moved the decimal place over too. I go like this. Now, if I click here, and I look, my height is 151.42. I click here, height is 150.478. So this one's clearly set up for my Stanley dupes, which are slightly different in size. That's how I came up with that. And the reason, again, I put this here is because now that it's centered, if I wanted to say, take this and go like here, it would then, and this nice new feature, actually they just put into the system, is it will now lock centered. So if you click here in the center of it and go here, it'll actually center it, which is really nice. I just found that out when I updated the system earlier today. So yeah, there's that. Of note, this would actually, if you go over to the preview, would actually laser engrave this box. However, if you go here, select it all, and if you go from left or from right to left and it's a green box, it'll select anything that you touched. So I could just actually do that and it would select it all. Actually, I could just go like this and it would select it all. Whereas if I did that here, it wouldn't select anything. So select it all, and then I turn it to a template or tool, excuse me, level like this. And so now whenever I hit preview, it'll give me a dill because there's nothing in my project to output. Okay, that was how I come up with the template. That's why it looks like this. That's why it's set up. This green dot shows where the laser is going to start the job. So sometimes it makes sense to start your job right in the middle of where you're working. A lot of times on like round items, that's a good thing to use. Sorry, one of your siblings is using a hairdryer. Sometimes it's better to start it at the edge of an item or like up here. And this is actually normally where I keep it. But sometimes it makes sense, especially on a Stanley cup, to make it right here. You have to put the handle in a different spot based on which one you put it. If you put the handle here, you need to have the handle or the job origin here. You need to have the handle on the back side of the laser. If you put the job origin here, you have to put the handle on the front side of the laser, like towards yourself. So for this one, we're going to put the handle frontwards towards ourselves. This is the general shape and location of the Stanley logo on a 40 ounce with the handle facing right. And so let's say file, import, and say we want to make this cup for Pam. So we go here and search the files. So we import it. This artwork has some remnant artwork that I probably should have deleted out of here. So I'm going to try to delete it, but I can't because it's selecting both things. So when I right click on it and ungroup, you can also press Control U and it will ungroup items for you. And then I'm just pressing the delete button. Now this is here by itself, but I can just click individual parts. Of note, you probably want to come here, select all these things, and you want to go tools, you want to weld shapes. Before we weld the shapes, though, I want to show you why we do that. So if you look right here, you'll see overlap in the letters. It's like your turning spacing on font. Here's another overlap. If you were to engrave this right now, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. No, or here, I'll continue. Okay, if you were to zoom in on that section, so right here on this R, you'll see that it actually turns off the laser for that section. So there's an overlap. So what you can do is you can select all of these, go to tools and hit weld shape, or you can also press Control W and it will actually weld those shapes, meaning the overlaps will be welded together. And so you won't have that issue anymore. So I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to press Control G because I want to group them. Then I want to put it onto this cup. Most artwork for 40 ounce cups, you have up and down the whole length is about 135 millimeters, which you can see right here. I've already measured it. And so at most, this could be 135 millimeters for the upper portion. First, we want to rotate it 90 degrees. In reality, you don't want to take up the whole cup. We want it to be down below this uh, Stanley logo. So what we'll do is we know, or I know, that the best size for this is somewhere between 75 millimeters and 85 millimeters. So let's just max out the space here and say we want it the height of the dill, which actually we have to sort of do is the width. We want it to be 85 millimeters. Select that, we're good to go. We move this into place. Again, using the cool new function in Lightburn, I don't actually have to do any centering. It automatically centers. And so we can go like that. Of note, really what you should do in a situation like this is you should actually also find the center point between the bottom of the Stanley logo and the bottom of this area. I'll tell you, I'll just try not to crowd it too much, and then we go from there. And I would just eyeball that and move on. No one's going to care. But you'll notice it's now out of bounds. That's because we haven't scaled it to the 57% like we're supposed to. And that's scaling in the Y direction after you have rotated it to match the orientation of the way the cup will be in the laser, right? Left is the bottom of the cup, right is the top of the cup. Just like when you're looking at the laser, left is at the bottom of the chuck, right is at the top of the chuck. So deselect the aspect ratio lock, and then we will scale the height, which actually, sorry, is the width here. I apologize. I do no, it's height. Okay, 57 to 57%. So now that's going to be much closer to correct in the size here. So go like that. Of note, if you don't have it selected like that and you're trying to get it centered, you can actually go here. So click here, hold shift, click here, and then select line horizontal center, and then now it's also back to centered. So now if you look at the preview, you get this warning. Sometimes this isn't a good warning, and you do need to fix it. Other times it's just annoying. So let's hit show me. It will actually bring up this container where there's an issue. What I like to do a lot of times is just press down, and that will actually like bring out the offending shapes. I try to keep track of how many times I pressed the arrow key. So 1, 2, 3, like if I wanted to put it back. This clearly is just some artifacts. I just hit delete and move on. Also, you can, when you press over, it will move. If you look in this X position, you'll see that it moves 2 millimeters. If you hold control and press over, it will move 0.5 millimeter. Now that is something that you can adjust in the system settings if you like, whenever you get more comfortable with stuff. If you hold shift and press over, it'll actually move like 20. So easy way to move things around a set amount, but across a large area. So this is now ready to go. It looks good. I can watch it play, and I see all of the lines being done. It's not missing any names, and there's no giant like accidental thing across it. So if I did this and I put a box here like this, and that box was like this, and I hit this, like, okay, that's not what I want. I don't want it to laser where it's black. It means it's going to laser. So that means it would laser all of that off of the cup, which wouldn't be good. Of note, light colored cups, you like the silver comes out as the darker color. And so if you want something to be quote unquote white, or the light portion of an image, you have to pay attention to whether you're putting on a dark colored cup or a light colored cup. There is a difference. You can also have different, so this is going to send it to the laser. It's going to use a fill technique. There's also offset fill and line that they go into, and also the speed and power. For almost all things, 230 is good. I will tell you, if you get to lighter colors, you want to slow down. Lighter colors, the laser does not cut through as well or as easily as it does with darker colors. You don't really need to turn up the power past like 30. You can maybe kick it up to 32 if you want to. When you're coming down here, you need to make for sure on a cup that the interval is at 0.06 apart. I've done a lot of testing with this. 0.06 is has a good safety margin on it. And you could actually say 2 if you wanted to, and it would actually run the laser over the same artwork twice. So if you looked, I'll show you this. Notice that it went from um, total estimated times 1230, and if you hit play, it'll actually run it, click it, and then it'll actually, once it gets done, it will run it and do it again. You can sort of see it sweeping back and forth. I've got it set at 40 times. You can actually look at what it would be doing real time like this. That's how slow it goes. You should know that. You've seen it be boring. But okay. If I change it to one pass, I usually do mostly only one pass. But again, light colored cups, not a bad idea. Like I've had to throw away my fair share of light colored cups. Of note, do not take a cup out of the chuck until you have validated that it actually burned through the um, the coating on the cup. Because if it hasn't, you can just run it again, and it will likely burn through the rest of it, and you'll be good to go. So I know this video is dragging on for a while, but hopefully this is giving you some good ideas about ways to work through things. Here's a reason why we don't use values like 0.1 or let's say 0.16, which is pretty large. That's how far it's going to step apart. If I hit run on this and I zoomed in, you can already see that it's lighter. See how the distance, that's the distance between the individual laser strikes, but the time went way down, which sounds really awesome. But when your cup doesn't look good, it's not nearly as awesome as you think it would be. So do that again. Notice the time went all the way up to 6:15. This looks much darker because the lines are much, much closer together. That's why that's why we set it up the way we do. So we would go, this is all ready to go. We recognize where the origin is. We see that the speed and the power is correct, that this is in the correct spot on the cup, and we've scaled it appropriately. So we're good to go. So what we do is we say, save RD file, scroll down to the USB stick that you have. The USB stick can't have more than 100 files on it. The limitation of the laser system can't read more than 100 files, and it also can't load more than 100 files on the computer in the like in the actual laser itself. So if you're at like 99 files and you're like you can't get a file to load onto the thing, it's because it's full. You have to delete some files off. Usually the most recent files are the best ones to delete off. The ones that have been there for a really long time, like that they're numbered like 1 through like 10. Uh, please leave those on the laser. I use them regularly. Um, you only get like 5 or 6 letters here, so I usually say like a number for like what organization I'm working for. Like so, with 328, I might put like 328, and then I would say a Stanley 40 ounce. So I might say 40, like 40, and then say number 1 if it was the first cup I was doing. Save it and then take it out, put it in the correct slot. There's 2 slots. Put it in the correct UDisc slot in the laser and load it on the system. And there you go. That's hopefully the last time I record this video, and it is certainly much different than the previous one was.